Thank you for joining. We are excited to see the interest here, both in the Spartan Experience Record and understanding the importance in documenting global learning experiences, and also just celebrating International Education Week. So for as you may know, International Education Week is it's a nationally celebrated week. It's kind of an event co-sponsored by the Department of State and Department of Education, um, celebrating mutual understanding between people from different cultures, global learning, expanding horizons. Actually, the theme this year is explore. So just wanted to share a little bit of the background of that. This is just one of many events that will be hosted across campus this week to celebrate IEW. And we're excited to have you. I will paste some events, some more information later on. But to get us started for this session, I am pleased to introduce our presenters that will share a little bit more about how we can help students actually document the global learning that they experience at MSU that may not be captured in a basic transcript through their coursework. We know that there's so much more to students' learning experiences than just the classes that they take. So with us today, we have Sarah Schultz, the director of My Spartan Story. We're also honored to have Shannon Logan, the coordinator for the Spartan Experience Record, and Opal Leeman Bartzis, the assistant director for the Global Learning and Innovation Center, and also the executive director of Education Abroad. So I will pass it to you guys. You can introduce yourselves further and take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to have you join us for our session here, a part of the start of International Education Week. We are thrilled to have the next bit of time to introduce to you further the Spartan Experience Record, great things we are doing, and all the more how we can continue to work and expand collaboratively to support global learning of Spartans. Once again, my name is Sarah Schultz. I serve as the director of the Spartan Experience Record. And my colleague Shannon, Logan, and myself are going to kick off the start of our session. We have a phenomenal student ambassador, Tweet, who will also be sharing a bit of her experience to help bring this our conversation to life. And Opal will wrap us up and expand further on what it means to be a globally engaged Spartan and how we continue to forward the conversation through the Spartan Experience Record for students. We can go to the next slide, and I will pass things off to Shannon. Thank you all again for joining us today.
Thanks, Sarah. So again, I'm Shannon Logan, and I'm here to talk about the Spartan Experience a little bit here with you today. So if you've never heard of the Spartan Experience Record, it is a way that we empower undergraduate students with an MSU verified record of learning achievements beyond the classroom. So students can request an official copy of their Spartan Experience Record through the registrar's office, and they can also access an unofficial and a digital copy through our platform at ser.msu.edu at any time. On the right side of the screen there, you can see a quick example of the Spartan Experience Record, but we'll walk through a zoomed in example here shortly as well. So in making the Spartan Experience Record, it was important that we highlight co-curricular experiences here at Michigan State University. So we sit in between curricular and extracurricular, as you can see on the screen here. Curricular being things that would show up on a student's transcript, defined by these credit-bearing activities with requirements for an academic program, and then extracurricular activities being things that are happening outside of the classroom. They're not part of the curriculum, and they might not have that formal assessment piece linked there. Whereas co-curricular, which is where the Spartan Experience Record is focused, there is an intentional learning, yet the experience is not bearing academic credit, but there are articulated learning goals and learning outcomes assessment. You can see here different categories of experiences that are represented in the Spartan Experience Record. So in the Spartan Experience Record, we include a range of experiences from on-campus employment, undergraduate research, club involvement or RSO involvement, and more. So all of these experiences can be housed in the Spartan Experience Record, and they can fit within these different categories that we have here. For the purpose of today's session, we'll be focusing largely on diversity and global learning. So I did want to highlight a quick description of that category here. Diversity and global learning opportunities allow students to engage with people, cultures, and or topics that foster a mindset that respects and values a broad range of backgrounds, viewpoints, and experiences. Other categories we have in the Spartan Experience Record include community engagement, leadership, education, internship and employment, and research and creativity. As I mentioned before, co-curricular experiences do include formal learning outcomes assessment and articulated learning goals. Here are some examples of learning outcomes that we have linked to experiences in the platform. We've grouped them into different subsets here, so application of knowledge, decision-making, critical thinking, and I'll go on to our next slide here where we have some more. Communication, well-being, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's one more slide here, but I do want to emphasize on these slides that these learning outcomes are applicable to a number of different experiences. In the Spartan Experience Record itself, we need at least one learning outcome to be included within an experience, and we welcome up to 5. And then here are our last set of learning outcomes: learning facilitation and community and collaboration. As you can see, there's many applicable learning outcomes related to some global learning experiences here. So now that we've talked a little bit about what the Spartan Experience Record is and what experiences we have in the platform, how do students use their Spartan Experience Record? In short, we could say to discover, to engage, and to reflect. But so much deeper than that, it gives students an opportunity to search and find co-curricular experiences. Because the Spartan Experience Record Office is collecting these co-curricular experiences that are happening across Michigan State University, we also have an opportunities catalog, again, through the platform at ser.msu.edu. Students can log in to find ways to get involved in co-curricular experiences at Michigan State University and really pinpoint learning outcomes or transferable skills that they want to develop. Students also are able to track their engagement and learning and make sure that it's reflected on their Spartan Experience Record and have that formal record to look back on later. Related to that is personal reflection or development. Our office actually has some peer education programs where we assist students with this reflection piece, where students can think about what did they learn in these experiences. There's so many experiences where students can get involved for fun and to meet friends and all these things, but there's also, in a lot of those cases, learning that's taking place. So we really like to highlight that through reflection, which can be helpful in resume development and interview preparation as well. Additionally, students can share their Spartan Experience Record with faculty or staff at MSU to prepare letters of recommendation or attach their Spartan Experience Record as an additional document for graduate school, employment, internship applications, or for other purposes. So now that I've talked a little bit about the Spartan Experience Record here, I wanted to pass things over to one of our wonderful Spartan Experience Record ambassadors, Twee, who will introduce herself and talk a little bit about the experiences she's been involved in here at Michigan State University, learning that's taken place outside of the classroom for her.
Thank you, Shannon. Hi, everyone. I'm Twee. I'm a junior studying computational data science with a minor in cognitive science at MSU. My involvements including SER as an ambassador. I help students navigate through resources on campus and how to utilize their SER, like job search and internship applications and all that. I'm also a mentor for K-12 students at Women in Engineering K-12 Outreach, where I create curriculum and teach students different coding languages like Python, JavaScript in web development and all that. I'm also a secretary at the Vietnamese Culture Union, where I help create an inclusive environment for Vietnamese students and also share our Vietnamese culture to MSU student body through cultural events and collaboration. And I'm also working in different research lab at MSU and outside of MSU as well, since my future career is to be in academia. Like I want to be a researcher and have my PhD and all that. um, I think sharing about my experience, I think although I did get like a lot of technical skills from in-class experience, like from classes, from professors and all that, I think most of the experience I have right now were gained from out-of-class experience. As you can see, I'm a data science major. It's a very like technical STEM coded major. The in-class experience helped me to have understanding of my major and to gain like build technical skill. But the out-of-class experience are what kind of helped me to apply those skills into real life settings. Because especially for technical major, if I can't apply the skill I have, it would be useless basically. Um, and many of my, as you can see in my involvements, many of the involvements I have at MSU are not too technical. Although I do have technical like projects and stuff, but I believe that both technical skills and also the soft skill are both like essential part for my future career. So that's why I'm focusing on enhancing my soft skills as well throughout out-of-class experience. And it's definitely helped me to improve my work ethics, my collaboration skill, my communication skills, and it helps me to improve my reflex, I would say, when I encounter some problems that would have never happened in a class setting. Sharing some experience with the SER, I actually didn't know SER when I was a first year student. So I came from like, I'm not from the US, I'm from Vietnam. And when I come here, I have to kind of like navigate through everything, change my living style and all that. And I didn't know SER at the time. So it was really hard for me to kind of navigate through all the resources at MSU because MSU is a really big campus and we do have a lot of resources. And now that I have more experience, it was hard for me, as Shannon mentioned, it was hard to compact all the experience I have into one-page resume because most of the time employers want us to have like a resume of, especially for STEM major, the employers really want to see our technical skill and the technical projects in the resume. So I couldn't like compact all the experience I have beside my technical skill in my one-page resume. And now that I know about SER and how I can utilize it, I actually use my SER right now to like as a supplemental document to apply for internship. So when people ask if I have any supplemental document, I would just like click onto the SER like document and apply it so that I want the employers not to see me as someone who can do good at my technical job, but I also want them to see me as a holistic person and a person who can be a good member on the team. Yeah, so that's my experience and how I think about SER.
Thank you, Tui, for sharing. It was great to hear from a student's perspective how you've used the SER and how out-of-class learning has benefited you. So again, Tui is an ambassador in the Spartan Experience Record office. She does hold some drop-in sessions where you can go ask questions about the Spartan Experience Record with her or set up an appointment to walk through some reflection with our peer education program. And with that, I'll hand it over to Sarah.
Thanks so much for sharing your experiences. To help take us a step further, we of course wanted to show you what a Spartan Experience Record looks like. As I take a look at who is present in the room today, many of you have directly contributed an experience to the Spartan Experience Record since our inception in fall 2020. Some of you maybe are thinking about an experience, and maybe some of you are looking to learn more. I hope as I move through this example, that you're able to think of, wow, I could see how my experience could be displayed. Or to think about, oh my goodness, I can see how the global learning my students are gathering in their experience, how we can reflect that, if that is of course formally not a transcriptable experience. So there's a lot of neat ways. I always like to really bring together the Spartan Experience Record as a way to expand the learning experiences of our students. And we'll show you how we do just that. What you see on your screen is a near parallel of a record if a student were to request it today. We're going to take a look at Spartan's record. You'll see Spartan has engaged in at least one experience in the research category and one experience within the education category. A student has to complete an experience in one of our 6 respective categories for it to display in the space. You'll go to the next slide, Shannon. This may be a bit small on your screen. We'll zoom in momentarily. What we wanted to showcase to you here is how the categories organize the respective positions for our students. So you'll see here, any experience under research would fall there. We can see this student had 2 respective experiences within the education category. Furthermore, I like to point out the signatures of our institutional leaders, as well as alongside the institutional seal. This makes it a formal MSU verified record for students. When we go to our next slide here, we'll bring to life the unique information we share. And I really liked Twee's note earlier on really having a perspective on her holistic education. That is a key component of our goals, that students, they can request their transcript and they also can request their Spartan Experience Record now. So these documents are things students can request in tandem together. And what we see here helps bring the students' co-curricular learning experience to life. So as a note, going back to the diversity and global learning category, that would showcase directly on the left-hand side here to really further organize those experiences and learning moments of students. We can see here, we have a set structure of all the way content is displayed on the SCR. You'll see we start with the position or the role the student held. Underneath that is the greater program or experience name. And underneath that is the college or MSU division that hosted, if you will, the experience. Below that is the time frame. And you'll see over here in light gray, we also showcase the general time that was committed to the experience. In the center is a brief position description, right around 200 characters. I often say this is the more challenging request of our worksheet to enter new experiences, a little bit like playing Tetris to get the right words and descriptions for students in. But all things Shannon, myself, and Twee are all happy to assist with. And then we'll go to our last column here. As a result, I learned to. This here, as Shannon shared, we require 1 learning outcome, and we welcome up to 5. So I'd like to point out that the direct learning that we request to have understanding of your co-curricular experience, we also directly empower students with including them directly on the Spartan Experience Record. So our intents are for students to have this as a space to, as Twee shared, to share, to apply for internships and jobs, and also, of course, as a reflection tool to really synthesize learning experiences, to reflect and synthesize skill sets, transferable skills, or a new phrase we are trying to move forward with is durable skills. Skills that we know are imperative to work beyond and careers beyond MSU, that co-curricular learning spaces are very integral in facilitating. So this as a whole shows you what an SCR looks like. Oh, you go ahead, Shannon. Thank you. I wanted to showcase to you now, and I know there's quite a few colleagues. I see Damaris on the call, and Hope, and Max, and some others who I know this is a process you are well facilitated with. But wanted to showcase to you when it comes to global learning, and I know Opal is going to expand a bit more on additional examples, what global learning looks like presently through a few examples in the Spartan Experience Record. So the 3 departments I have listed here have been very integral and very supportive over our last few years to expand what it means to be an globally engaged Spartan. So you can get a sense here that we have student organizations, we have the Learning Abroad Conference presenters, peer advisors, internships, the Peace Corps Prep Competency Program. We have all of those directly in the SCR. A great example of a really rich experience that, of course, isn't on the transcript that we can bring to life directly for students here. So I wanted to give you a sense of some examples that we have worked on over the years, but all the more know with how we are moving forward as an institution to support and further expand on what it means to be a globally engaged Spartan, that we have a lot of exciting work to do. And we have a lot of new ways to expand what it means to be an engaged Spartan, specifically in the co-curricular space surrounding global learning. I have gotten to have the privilege to be a part of the Spartan Global Learning Initiative co-curricular subcommittee. We just wrapped up our report last night, which was a very exciting accomplishment over our hard work the last few semesters. And all the more to bring to you and where we'll share here of how we continue to work collaboratively alongside faculty, staff, and of course our students. We've expanded some ways that I'll go to our next slide and talk a little bit more about. So as we continue through our session today, maybe you're thinking already, wow, I know I have a student group, or I have a on-campus job, or a related experience of some of the examples we just shared. There are some great next steps to take with us to move forward in creating what we call a new submission to the SCR. We have a formal process, being a formal educational record for students that we are required to facilitate. And Shannon and I are happy to walk through every step of our process with you to ensure a smooth entry to the Spartan Experience Record. A lot of the information we've shared today are foundational elements to help you get started. But when it comes to the next steps, there could be some additional questions that we could schedule direct meetings, or we have upcoming workshops as well where we do a deeper dive into our resources. That I have one next Tuesday as though, and I can place that in the chat here in momentarily. But to share, if you haven't taken a look at our website, I highly encourage you to move forward in that direction next. You can further explore resources, check out additional opportunities to sign up for workshops, but also to see our worksheets. So if there are next steps you're looking to take, we'd be welcome to take a glance at that and move forward there. As shared, Twee is one of our awesome student ambassadors, and many thanks to Shannon and her. We've gotten to really expand our ambassador team. We have drop-in hours where students can ask questions, and all the more have support to engage and utilize their Spartan Experience Record. So maybe if you're a student here today and you're thinking about, wow, I'd like to see what's on my record. I'd like to learn more about how do I, maybe I have something that maybe doesn't feel exactly in the global learning space, but maybe there's something there is, and maybe there's more other options like undergraduate research as an example. All sorts of great things we continue to help make next steps to move forward with. So we're excited for next steps to help grow what it means to be a globally engaged Spartan in the Spartan Experience Record alongside you all. And with that, I'm going to transition, I believe, ready for Opal to take us away and share a bit more about what it means to be a globally engaged Spartan. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Sarah, and thank you, Shannon and Alexandra, and especially you, Twee. It's really nice to be able to have a student here and to hear directly from you. And I'm pleased to see so many here, so thank you for joining us. So thought I might just start with a little bit of a discussion of what is global learning, and that isn't a question that we have been able to answer definitively, because we realize that there are many definitions of global learning that exist. But in the Spartan Global Learning Initiative Steering Committee that Sarah referenced, of which she is a part, and as am I, this is one of the questions that we've been wrestling with, and that is, should there be a set definition for MSU, and how can we have a holistic approach, but one that's also malleable and one that is evolving, and we think that we are headed toward what we're thinking of as a living definition. So informing that conversation has been several readings and conversations about it. One of the definitions that we have landed on that we like, just to be instructive for us, is that global learning is the process of diverse people collaboratively analyzing and addressing complex problems that transcend borders. So Landorf and colleagues in this reading made it very clear that there had to be those three elements. There has to be diverse people, so diverse perspectives. The learning has to be collaborative. You have to be engaging in it with one another to a certain degree. And you have to be thinking about problems that aren't just your local problems, but are global problems that probably have a local application. So complex problems that transcend borders. So that has resonated with us. And for another look at global learning, Beelan and Jones said, global learning is learning that is enabled through the intentional integration, so it has to be purposeful, right? The intentional integration of international and intercultural dimensions into the formal and informal curriculum for all students. So when we thought about this definition, it caused us to think about the fact that international and intercultural aren't necessarily the same things, that we have to attend to all of that. And that we have to think about the formal curriculum. So what are we saying that we will be teaching students, and what are we doing officially in the classroom, but also the informal curriculum. And that has more of a connection, I think, to the co-curriculum. And so there we have some direct linkages to the Spartan Experience Record. And then it has to be for all students. So we're not just aiming for students who can, for example, study abroad. We're not just looking at what we're doing for international students. We want global learning to be something that is possible and, in fact, guaranteed for all students, for MSU to make a commitment to global learning. And then just one more. Indiana University, Indianapolis has developed a definition for themselves to explain sort of how they position and how they operationalize global learning. So here you see it's more of a focus on what the process is. So global learning is how learners attain the knowledge, skills, and dispositions they need to negotiate and contribute to the complex and interconnected world in which they learn, work, and live. So it's the how, but it's also focusing on acquiring knowledge, skills, and dispositions or attitudes, and being able to successfully navigate, but not just that, being able to contribute. So here's a little bit more of an impetus to think about what we normally would associate with global citizenship, and that is the willingness to not necessarily take a stand, but the willingness to act in favor of certain things that you think are helpful to civil society. So Sarah mentioned the Spartan Global Learning Initiative. This is a steering committee of 25 members from across the university and several subgroups that have drawn in a lot more members from the campus to engage in this year-long activity of thinking about what global learning is, what it should be for MSU, what we can do to inventory the efforts that are already going on around the campus with regard to global learning, amplify those, look for gaps that need to be filled so that we can bring global learning to all students, and then look for what opportunities might come from this more intentional engagement with the concept of global learning. So I'll give you just a second to read this, which is, it came directly from the provost when he charged the steering committee to engage in this year-long of work. And you'll see that it aligns with our various strategic plans, and also it relates directly to various facets of the student life cycle. And for the Spartan Experience Record, I think we see student services coming into play, co-curricular, of course, but this is also a resource for faculty and staff. And you'll see evidence of global DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion in some of these examples that we'll be sharing next. So if you're searching for global learning in the Spartan Experience Record, when I think about what global learning can mean when we look at the SER, we see that students can reflect on their global learning. They can realize that they've engaged in global learning, and they can document it. So here the SER is in itself a tool that operates as a reflective and an educational piece. So it's not just a place to inventory and note that you've done these things, but it's a place to think about these things. And that act in itself is educational. It's also a way for students to search for global learning opportunities, right? If they've already started an SER or if they're going to, they can become aware of global learning opportunities. And one of the desires of that Spartan Global Learning Initiative that I've been talking about is that we raise awareness of global learning opportunities and that students realize that there are many things in which they can engage that are considered global learning. So one could search by title. Global learning or global may appear in the title. It may appear in the description. It may be tagged, or it may be noted because the SER category that has been assigned to it is diversity and global learning opportunities, which, as you can see, allows students to engage with people, cultures, and/or topics that foster a mindset that respects and values a broad range of backgrounds, viewpoints, and experiences. So these are the ways that one might look for global learning in the SER, in the opportunities catalog. So we've already mentioned a couple of these, but I'm going to just linger here for a moment before I go on to some other potentially less well-known opportunities that are considered global learning. As I prepared for this presentation, for example, I spent a fair bit of time digging through the opportunities catalog and finding out that there were many global learning opportunities of which I was not aware. But these, of course, are some that I am more aware of in my role here at MSU. The Learning Abroad Conference, which is now called the Global Learning Conference, just took place. It takes place annually. It just happened on Friday. So we had a wonderful half day of presentations from education abroad participants who have come back and who have reflected on their experiences, have realized that they have important things to say as they have made meaning of those experiences, and they shared those in a professional setting. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And that engagement in that activity is a verifiable activity in the SER. Students who take part in it can list that on their co-curricular record. Another example is education abroad peer advisors. So again, we have students who have returned from education abroad. They have been so pleased with their experience, realized that they have learned so much from it, that they want to encourage as many students as possible to do something similar. And they sign up to be peer advisors in our Education Abroad Advising Center here in the International Center. And they then have individual advising appointments with students. They do group advising. They engage in promotional events around the campus to get more students involved with education abroad. And we have encouraged them to create their own SERs and to be sure to list this. And then through that experience, to be able to encourage other students who have returned from education abroad to also list education abroad related experiences in their own records, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And then finally, the American Semester Program. Not sure how many people are familiar with that here, but that is a program for short-term visiting international students to come to MSU to have their own sort of study abroad experience here at MSU. And so that program requires, in order to work really well and to give the ASP students, including our inbound exchange students, the best experience possible while they're with us for 1 or 2 semesters. We have ambassadors who sign up because they want to support those students. They want to engage in their sociocultural events, help them with orientation, and help them with general issues of well-being while they're here. And so that very structured experience as well, which is really important, is one that ambassadors can list. It's a verifiable activity in the SER for them. So one that I learned a little bit more about is the Global Student Ambassador Program. Again, this is an ambassador program. This one is through the Broad College of Business. It's a 10-week-long leadership program, and ambassadors are then promoting global events and programs to their fellow students. They're assisting with resume reviews, as you can see, and various other programmatic activities. So they get hands-on leadership experience. And if you look at the anticipated learning outcomes, you'll see several there. They up to 5 can be listed, as Sarah explained. I think the 5th one is very important, to use inclusive and equitable practices to inform actions. We know that global learning has a direct connection and relevance to DEI, to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and these sorts of practices. And so I think it's useful to see that that is an anticipated learning outcome of this experience, which of course is a global experience, can be found again through a search for the title or for the content that has the word global in it. And then another one through the Broad College of Business is the Global Short-Term Projects Participant. So this one is associated with the Russell Palmer Career Management Center. This is similar to an internship, but it's a summer project. And as I understand it, it matches international students with corporate partners. So there we have the explicit global piece to it, that the partners are likely global partners, but also these are international students who are working with these agencies. And again, you can see the anticipated learning outcomes there. And once again, the 5th one, I think, working effectively in a diverse environment, is relevant to global learning. And I think we know that in our increasingly diverse world, that being able to work in a cross-cultural team is something that is very important for Spartan graduates. It's important to be able to explain that one has engaged in these sorts of activities that have made one able to say, I can work in a multicultural team. I can work perhaps in a multicultural or cross-cultural virtual team. These are all skills that are really important in today's world. This is one that I learned about as I was preparing for the session, and this is social work with global populations. So in the activities catalog, it's possible to see that I believe that's the Bachelor of Arts in Social Work, has several certificates that are listed. And one of those is working with global populations. I'm going to check my notes here to just see if I have the others. Don't think that I printed. Oh, yes, I did. So there are several certificates in addition to social work with global populations. Child welfare is another certificate, law and policy and social work with children, youth, and families, health and aging services, and nonprofit leadership in social work. But if one wants to document the global learning that they have engaged in, and if they have done that particular certificate, the social work with global populations, then it's possible to have this listed, this particular one that you see here, listed on the SER, and you'll see that certificate earners are working potentially with global populations such as immigrants and refugees as they adjust to their new home, cultivating independence, connecting them to support services, and so forth. And so with this particular certificate, students, even though the academic part of it is not necessarily what's being listed in the SER, the part about 9 course credits, et cetera, in global affairs, it is important to see what those components are that lead up to the student being able to complete the certificate. And it's the co-curricular aspects of the certificate that make it possible to be listed in the SER. And you'll see several of the anticipated learning outcomes at the bottom that relate to that: promoting social and civic responsibility, in particular, working effectively in a diverse environment, again, seem to be very relevant for global learning. The next one is Pay It Forward in Namur, Belgium. So this is an interesting one. This program isn't actually running now, but it has, and I think this is a useful example for us. This is an activity that students engaged in as part of their education abroad experience. So their education abroad program isn't listed in the SER per se, because it's been thought of as being a curricular experience. It's education abroad is credit bearing, but although we're going through some conversations about that right now to see if there's any opportunity to expand that perspective on education abroad with regard to the SER. But in this case, this is a particular community service project that students who took part in the program, the education abroad program in Belgium, that they completed. So they were working with, for example, a nonprofit food bank for 4 weeks. They completed 2 to 3 hours filling nonprofit needs. And you can see from the description there of the sorts of activities that the students were engaged in, and then the anticipated learning outcomes again. Apply knowledge to solve real-world problems, for example, very important for global learning. Building and supporting inclusive communities, working effectively in a diverse environment. And with the next example, this is the Collaborators Program at the MSU Museum. And this one can be found by looking for global in the description. So by its title, one might not necessarily think this is a global learning program. And even as you start to read the description, it isn't necessarily global, but you'll see that participants will grow their curiosity about global challenges to personal reflections on the ways their confidence as communicators expand, and to find out that learning is at the heart of what students describe when they reflect on their experiences working in the MSU Museum Collab Studio. So that aspect of focusing on global challenges, I think is very relevant for our conversation today. And you can see in that last part there, igniting their passion for new ideas, guiding their professional and educational choices with attributes such as ethical understanding, thriving in the knowledge economy. That's very relevant for global learning. And this one is an example of one that at first glance doesn't seem to pertain directly to MSU students. However, it does. The focus with the World Food Prize Michigan Youth Institute is one that enables students, now these are pre-college students, to research and make recommendations on how to solve key global challenges. All right, so there's the global, definitely. But these are pre-college students, so they wouldn't have an SER. However, if you go down to the bottom, you'll see MSU students have the opportunity to serve as experts to facilitate roundtable discussions, host students around campus, help facilitate immersive learning experiences, and it relates to youth development, workforce development, and the other items that you see listed there. So it's that aspect of being a student expert and facilitator for the World Food Prize Michigan Youth Institute that makes this a global learning verifiable activity. And this is one that I actually, as an adult facilitator, engaged with, and so did some of the people here in the past. That's a really exciting opportunity, by the way. So those were kind of deep dives into a few examples that I think aren't necessarily immediately relevant when one thinks about global learning and the SER. There are other activities that can be found that have an international focus. We've already heard Sarah or Shannon mention the Peace Corps prep competencies. There's also the Honors Navigators Peer Mentorship Program, which has global aspects. The Broad International Student Council that is comprised of international students, obviously. So there are other activities that have an international focus. They may not come up under a search for the word global necessarily. But there are also examples of membership in organizations that have an international recognition. And an example of that would be Kappa Delta Pi. And then to conclude, I just wanted to mention that we are going to have, as part of International Education Week, our annual International Education Week faculty panel. This year, the topic is the imperative for MSU to provide students with a global education. So if you're here, you probably care about that idea. You probably think that it is important for students to have a global education. And so we have three wonderful faculty coming from three very different parts of the campus. Siddharth Chandra coming from James Madison College, and he's the director of the Asian Studies Center. Cholani Wibati is in the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and Sarah Bono is an assistant professor in the College of Education. She has had a whole lot of experience with study abroad and research around it and its relationship to transformative learning. So that is sure to be a really interesting conversation where they've been invited to take the conversation in any direction that they like, but to seek to answer that question of why is it important for students to engage in global learning at MSU. And with that, I will turn it back over, I believe, to Sarah and Shannon. And we're hoping that we have left enough time at the very end for some questions too, but thank you.
Thank you, Opal, for sharing. So to conclude, we wanted to like Opal said, leave some room for discussion and talk about next steps. So I'll start by talking about next steps, and then we'll open it up to see if there's any questions or further things to talk through here as related to global learning and documenting that learning through the Spartan Experience Record. So as we know, there's a growing representation of global learning experiences within the Spartan Experience Record, and we welcome colleagues and students to collaborate with the Spartan Experience Record on experiences that can be added to the Spartan Experience Record if they're not already. So please check out, as Sarah mentioned, ser.msu.edu. We'd be happy to meet with you, whether a student, faculty, staff. We have workshops, drop-in hours, and various ways to connect with our team, and we'd be happy to collaborate on these submissions. So for students, we do have peer education sessions to find global learning opportunities and get involved in or reflect on those experiences. So whether you have been involved in the past and you want to think more about what you learned from those experiences, we're happy to walk through that with you. Or if you're looking to get involved, we're happy to help you find experiences to get involved and meet those learning goals that you have for yourself. So to get the conversation started, we wanted to ask what co-curricular experiences are you engaged with and or leading, emphasizing on global learning that we may not have mentioned yet, to share it with the group here in case it's of interest to others to get involved, or so we can work with you to get it added to the Spartan Experience Record. If anybody wants to share, feel free to unmute yourself or ask questions that you may have from the presentation.
Hello, I have a question. I mean, maybe a few questions.
Great.
So, but I first want to say thank you for providing this information and for always being available to support those of us who, are in touch with students or student organizations. So my first question is that, is your office able to connect with all students? Like, are you able to share this information or information about SCR with all students? Or you work with departments or units? That's the first one.
Yeah, we're happy to share this with all students. So we do have ambassadors that work with students often. Sarah and I also work with students often. So a great way to get connected with us if just starting and not sure where to start, to check out the website. We have an events and resources tab there, or to email mystory@msu.edu, and then we can schedule a meeting to talk further about this and connect with all students, as well as faculty and staff.
Thank you, Shannon. I was kind of asking, like, is your office connected with all students? Like, are you able to send, for example, an email to the entire student body to share about the work that your office does? Is the question that I had.
Yeah. Yep, we are.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. The second question, is this recording gonna be made available so then we can share with students?
Yep, it'll be made available after this call. Can share it out.
All right,
Good
and
question.
thank you. Finally, I didn't know, when Sarah was presenting, she said that the students could request their transcript alongside the SER record. So I didn't know before. I thought it's something that is made available. If you're getting your transcript, you're also getting your record, the Spartan record. So is this something that we need to be sharing with our students? Because I definitely let students know that SCR is an initiative that has been rolled out since 2020, and encourage them to, be a part of it. But I never told them that they needed to request their record. So is that something that we need to tell them, or is it just a given? Like, if you're getting a transcript, you're also getting your SER record?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking. So when a student goes to request their transcript through the registrar's office, there is a an option to also receive their Spartan Experience Record. So it's a box they can check. So it is good to mention for students that do want that official copy of their Spartan Experience Record to know to check that box, and they'll receive their Spartan Experience Record in doing so. But we do also have the platform where students can unofficially get a copy of their record and check on experiences if they don't need necessarily that official version with the signatures like Sarah was showing and things, where they can just kind of check in on things. And that's also where they can access the opportunities catalog.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the responses, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question if I might. Elizabeth Schneider from the Office for Education Abroad. I'm curious about the learning outcomes. And my question is, are the learning outcomes standardized for all students within a certain activity? So for example, would the learning outcomes for students who participated in the Education Abroad Peer Advisor program, would they be identical, or are they written by the student based on their own learning and reflection?
That's a great question. So we work with faculty, staff, or students on submissions to the Spartan Experience Record, noting that the faculty or staff advisors are considered validators or assessors of the learning in the experience. So when we work to get these experiences added collaboratively, we have the learning outcomes, which I showed grouped on those few slides, where there are options to choose from. So they're pre-populated when you're working on a worksheet with us that you can choose from those learning outcomes. And typically the positions have identical learning outcomes for each student that is involved in the experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Just to elaborate there, I will just note we just ask that in the description, the learning outcomes are kind of talked about, how they're achieved as well. Thanks for your question.
One point there too for Elizabeth. As Shannon shared, typically when we have a new role added, all the learning outcomes are communicated to us as the same for all peer advisors, as an example. But when you do validate, you can customize. So there are few instances, but there is an option. So like maybe you had a student who's been a peer advisor for 3 years, and maybe you gave them additional responsibilities and you wanted the learning outcomes to reflect that. You can do so at the validator step. That is more rare in our process, but it is an option, as we know that is of interest to best reflect what, of course, was the learning experience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your good questions. Other questions, or I'd love to see if anyone would like to put something in the chat about maybe an experience you're thinking to add or something new, or if anyone wants to add any other thoughts for the future.
Well, I know I've been in touch with your office before,
Yeah.
but one of the events, or not events, but one of the things that I'm looking to add, and actually pleased to see, I didn't see the full list, but I know there's at least one student here from the group, but the Global Young Leaders Network is a group of fabulous students that are meeting together through the semester, working on community service projects, intercultural exchange, growing their professional development kind of with a global lens. And so that is an example of something that we are excited and looking to really get on the SER so that all of the members of the club are able to document their outcomes.
Exciting. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate it, Alexandra.
Mhm.
Thanks for more info there, Opal. Thank you all for your great questions. I will turn it over to Alexandra to wrap everything up. Oh, looks like we got another note from Max. Oh, yes. Oh, that's great to hear. Restarted this year. Yeah, we'll happily be in touch, Max. That's great. Thanks for sharing. International Business Organization through Broad has restarted this year. They've been dormant for quite a few years, he shared in the chat. Right. Thank you all once again. I know I echo our gratitude from Shannon and Opal and myself. It's been a joy to be a part of this collaborative session to bring to you all today some wonderful knowledge and thoughts for next steps to support co-curricular global learning. Opal or Shannon, any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank everyone again and to say if you are aware of opportunities that are in there that we overlooked somehow, because we'd love to improve this presentation for perhaps a future iteration, then please drop us a line. We'd love to hear about it.
Likewise, I just wanted to say thank you. Our contact information is up on the screen for now. And we also have, for the Spartan Experience Record Office, my story at msu.edu for students, faculty, or staff to contact with further questions after this. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Shannon, Sarah, and Opal for presenting and sharing all of that information with us. I know I'm excited to continue discussions and help our GYLN students be able to document this. And it sounds like there's a couple other opportunities that you guys are creating some more work for yourselves, some good work, as more people will be following up with you. For everyone in the meeting, in the chat, I have posted a little bit more information. As you know, this discussion is in celebration of International Education Week. In addition to the faculty panel discussion that's at 12 o'clock on Wednesday on Zoom that Opal mentioned, there are many other activities and events going on across campus this week. I posted a link to the International Education Week page for MSU. This page is a living, moving website. So if there's any events that you would like to add to the list, whether it's something you're hosting, your college is hosting, or you even just happen to see that you think is relevant to global learning, please send me an email. I'm happy to add it. That email is in the chat. And we look forward to seeing some of you hopefully at additional events and activities throughout the week. We'll be, as you know, this call is recorded, so we'll be sharing it out with any of you that would like to share with colleagues or students that were not able to make it today. And we will close out there. Thanks again for joining us, and thank you, Sarah, Shannon, and Opal for the wonderful presentation.